Multi-laminate guitars. Let's go build some junk. Alright, I haven't been recording much of this because this isn't the build. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. What we're doing here is basically a test run, so when it comes time to working with that gorgeous blank I made, we won't screw it up, or at least that's the plan. So I haven't really been recording this one, except now that I run into some weird question marks I'm not entirely sure how we're going to handle. That seems like a good place to talk about, some things that might be pertinent to the actual project when it comes time. These little head pieces for this headless rig, where the string comes out of there, I'm pretty sure is if it's shorter than the fret wire, it ain't much, I think. But I also know if we place those just behind the fretboard, you're at about a 1/4 inch high in the middle and, a little bit less with the radius on the edges. I think that's overkill. So I'm halfway thinking, I had been thinking that this platform that we put those on should probably slant. I just didn't know for sure, but it's kind of looking that way. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. Now, being a test piece, I just arbitrarily decided where to put my 0 fret location, and didn't really think too much about whether or not we would have enough meat to mount those on. I should have, but I didn't. So I didn't really have enough room, so what we chopped off the other end of the fretboard, I just glued up here, just so I have a little more meat, and that gave me enough meat. So, I mean, like I said, it's a test piece. It's not like this is something I'm going to be real super proud of. I'm just finding the pitfalls and trying to figure out where, all the issues are going to be. So I think I'm going to go ahead and slope this down real quick. Yeah, it's not going to be real quick. And then go from there. Then I guess we can, slap on a stainless fret and see what it looks like. Alright, this is one of my concerns. I don't know for sure, but I suspect there are a couple things here that are important. What I was hoping was that with a little slope, we could put these head pieces real close behind the 0 and not have to actually have some kind of a nut. It's as is without putting a lot more slope on it or recessing this somehow. I don't think that's going to work, but I hope you can see that I got to get about a 1/2 inch behind it to make sure that it's actually resting on the fret. I could go a little tighter, but it wouldn't be enough to negate the need for a nut. So the fact that right there we're barely touching the fret, I think going back a little bit further to a 1/2 inch is a wise idea. But I also think you probably don't want a whole lot of slope there. And again, I don't know for sure, but I'm sitting here thinking that if there was a lot of slope, the string might be resting a little more on the back side of the fret rather than the top center like you actually need it to be. So I think I think that's the placement we're going to need, but then we're going to need some kind of a retention nut just to hold things in place. Maybe not. I mean, it'd probably be alright. It'd probably be alright. And we may go with that and then, if need be, retrofit it with some kind of a little nut. But that would be a really weird, tiny little nut. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with it as is and see how it works. And if we don't like the result, then, we'll do something. But I think I'm going to go with that. I took my string spacing ruler and I found spacing there and there so I could draw the strings through. I already have a little line that's about a ½ inch behind the fret where I want that to be. So I think what I'm going to do in placing these, you just get them centered on the string line and just put the exit hole right at that ½ inch mark, which will be a little different for the alternates, like that, but I think it'll be okay. I don't know, it might look weird. They may need to stagger just a little so they don't, so they look like they're in line. No, that'll be alright. It's centered. The center of the piece will be on the line, so yeah, that'll look alright. They sure are blocky though. At least those are. Huh. Now I halfway wonder if I do want to recess them just a bit. And if they were recessed, you can move them up quite a bit tighter. I don't know. It doesn't hurt anything for them to be big and blocky and ugly. This is proof of concept. This is just messing around, trying to make sure everything's going to work before I commit our good lumber to it, to the plan. However, like I had on the drawing, I really think, now I got some question marks down here, because to get the exit point of these headpieces low enough that they actually sit on the zero nut, exactly how to do that, there are lots of options, but how to do that where I'm going to be the happiest with it is a little bit of a question, but I think from looking at this, we definitely need some slope. Now, this thing is ugly as hell, because my dumbass decided I would carve a volute before I had ears on it, then knew exactly what I was going to do with the head. So it looks pretty jacked up at the moment, but the overall shape I'm really kind of happy with. This works out, I'm going to call it the hammerhead. But it's important to me that it does have ears that you can hang this thing on, and the shape I think is cool and gives me a little area for a logo. What I'm thinking about, and I don't know that that's what I want to do, but what I'm thinking about on the actual project is, instead of trying to put a head plate on this thing, mostly because of the complications of how all this is going to work, I'm thinking about getting a different set of hardware that's higher quality. There are several things about this setup I'm not happy with. And just how big and chunky these fuckers are is one thing. If I was going to use these, I think I would inset them, kind of inlay them, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Make them a little less blocky, get them a little lower, require a little less distance from the zero nut, some things like that. I'm not super impressed with these. I'm just not. But what I was thinking, and I don't know about other hardware options yet, so I'm going to have to wait and see what those look like. But what I'm thinking is, instead of doing a head plate on this thing, inlaying an area, the majority of that area, inlaying it with the quilted maple from the top, stained about the same, and then putting the logo into that. I think that would look cool. And, gets around the issue of how in the hell I would do a head plate. However, I don't know that yet. I need to get around to looking at other hardware options, what the hell they're going to cost, and getting some ordered. But anyway, this god-awful hot mess. The one saving grace of this thing, the maple that I did this out of, which came out of it was reclaimed from a school table. It is as straight as you could possibly imagine, with absolute zero deviation ever. It's done. And last weekend, because my stupid ass, when going to cut the profile, cut to the line where the depth of the truss rod is instead of the line I had drawn for our actual profile, I filled that in with epoxy. I would never dream of doing something like this if it wasn't a test, but I think it's going to be just as rock solid as you could possibly imagine. I don't. Plus, I kind of didn't put a truss rod in this because I didn't want to waste the truss rod. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment. And either way we go, I think I need to put some ears on. And I just so happen to have a couple chunks of scrap red heart laying around that would work nicely. Not really any danger of screwing up here. I want it to be as close to flush on the face as possible. Everything else will just trim to it. Hard to be more flush than that. Thanks for joining me. If you like what we're doing, if you're digging it, like and subscribe. Catch you next time.